Today we're looking at the Canon G7X Mark III, thanks to Cameracraft in Rockford, Illinois for letting me try this out at their shop. The G7X Mark III is a small compact camera with a lot of features. Canon did announce there are going to be firmware updates for this camera related to autofocus, so just keep that in mind with this video. This is 1.01 firmware. Let's start with the basic stuff. 20.1 megapixel 1-inch sensor. That means it's larger than the super compact cameras and larger than all the phones so far. So definitely good in that case for image quality. The big negative of this sensor is that it is contrast-based autofocus. It doesn't have any type of dual pixel or phase detect on that sensor. The lens attached to the camera is a 24-100mm equivalent lens. You've got f1.8 to f2.8 through that zoom range. So really nice lens on there. Pretty fast and a good decent amount of range to it. It does have image stabilization in the lens, so that should help with photos and video situations. The maximum mechanical shutter speed of the camera is 1/2000th of a second. That's pretty much in range with a camera like this, but it does have a built-in ND filter to help out that situation. It can go all the way up to like 25,600 on that electronic shutter, but there's always issues related to that with having wobbly stuff in images or anything moving quickly through that with an electronic shutter. It might not be straight. I wasn't able to try out the burst modes, but it is rated from 3 to 30 frames a second with that special burst mode in the camera. With that special burst mode, it does let you get frames before you press the shutter, which is a really nice feature to have in there with action situations. It does have a built-in flash that is very important on this camera because it does not have a hot shoe. There's no way to mount any type of external flash. With the built-in flash, there is an option to adjust the sync of the shutter for first curtain, second curtain. That's good to have in there because that's your only option. There are a multitude of easy mode options with this camera. It is targeted towards beginners in a way, I guess you could say. Simple modes, simple ways to select the type of photo you want to do, if it's landscape, food, whatever. Or you can do beauty modes. It's all in there. I didn't look at it, but just know that if you're interested in that stuff, those are options on the camera. Let's go over the hardware, the build, the ergonomics of the camera. It does have that flip forward screen, so you've got a full 180-degree flip, so you can use that in selfie modes. That's a really good benefit of a camera like this. It does also tilt downward 45 degrees, so that's not a ton, but it is good if you're trying to hold the camera up above you to see. That works out. It doesn't have a viewfinder, just something to keep in mind with photos. I think a camera like this, it doesn't really need one. The screen itself is a full touchscreen with Canon's usual user interface that gives you full control through the touchscreen, which is really nice. It's convenient, it works well, it's smooth. Canon has probably one of the best systems for touch in their cameras. With the ports, it does have the micro HDMI, which is nice to have. You can do the clean output, but there are some caveats to it. Big benefit of this camera is it now has a mic port, 3.5mm standard format, so you can attach microphones to the camera directly. There is a control ring around the lens, which is nice to have to adjust either aperture or shutter speed. You can select that in the menus. On the top of the camera, we have the main mode dial. As I mentioned, it has all those standard easy mode features, but it has also manual aperture, shutter speed, all of that. It also has one custom setting save mode, which is really nice to have if you want to adjust your settings and push them into that one single custom mode. There is a dedicated exposure compensation dial. It's nice to have there with a manual control. On the top, you see a large mesh opening. That is the dual microphone. It's stereo. I do test the internal microphone later on in the video. I found that with my hands, the shutter button and the main mode dial are kind of in a flipped position where my finger rests on the mode dial instead of the shutter button. Now it's going to depend on your hands and how you use the camera. Keep that in mind with the ergonomics. Just feels a little bit awkward for me. In the back of the camera, we have a scroll wheel for adjusting additional settings. It's really nice to have an additional physical control right there. The camera comes with an NB13L battery. It is 1250 milliamps. You're going to get the usual lower end on how many photos it can take. Camera like this, I'm not too surprised. Camera can do USB charging through the USB-C port, but you need a special charger or at least a higher end, properly spec'd charger for it to work. They do offer their official charger. It's pretty expensive, the PTE1 charger. Handling on the camera seems decent enough. It's relatively small, but still not tiny. The grip itself has a ridge to it. I wouldn't say it's the best that I've used of a camera this size, but it's okay. Of course, that depends on you and your hands. This camera is at the size where you could fit it in a small bag or a decent sized pocket, most likely a jacket pocket. Take note that the tripod socket is not in line with the lens. I usually mention this on cameras like this when it is not. If you're doing any type of situation where having the lens and the tripod socket aligns with panoramas or something similar. Another thing I noticed that the strap lugs are in an unusual position. Now that could be good or bad, I didn't test those out, but just something to look at and check out for yourself. Let's get into the wireless capability of this camera with Canon's official app. There is a lot to it. You have full control of photo taking. You can do timer, you can do so many things, full manual control, adjust aperture, shutter speed, ISO. Seems quicker than the M50 is to connect, which is good. You can transfer photos automatically. I didn't test that out, but it's in there. On the video side, again, you have full manual control of video. You have levels. A really cool feature is that you can adjust the zoom level of the camera in video situations, even when it's recording. So you can do some nice smooth zoom ins in video with the camera. I just really enjoyed that feature using it at the camera shop. You can enable the usual peaking mode in manual focus situations on the camera. Of course, that just means you get some additional bright lines, bright colored lines when you're in manual focus while you adjust the focus ring. There is a focus bracketing feature. I really like this feature. It gives you a lot of options with closer up photography. What it does is it allows you to select a start and end point for focus, and then the camera incrementally goes through those focus points depending on how many frames you want to take. Once you're on your computer or whatever, you can put those photos together and make one picture with the main subject fully in focus. This is kind of big for Canon, but with aperture priority mode, you do have a minimum shutter speed setting in the ISO setup. Now my M50 does not have this. It's super frustrating to not have that minimum shutter speed, but in this camera, it's in there. It's nice to have. So with aperture priority, gives you a way to fully fine-tune that setup. There are 3 controls that can be adjusted in the camera. You have the main dial around the lens, but you can only do AV and TV. With your auto exposure lock button, you can fully customize that one single button to a lot of different things like turning off the screen. Then with the back control dial, you can adjust that to standard or off. So not much customization with this camera for adjusting buttons and what they do. This camera is very much targeted towards people that are interested in video. Of course, no viewfinder, has that flip up screen. They do YouTube or whatever. So this camera can actually do live streaming with YouTube. I didn't try that out, but it is in there if you are curious about it. Of course, with the microphone jack, that gives you the potential for nice audio right into the camera. I did have my Boya microphone with me, so I was going to try it out with this camera. David helped me out as well. He found a bracket that I could use, and I was able to rig up the microphone with the camera. Worked out pretty well. I'm sure that with different equipment you can find a smaller solution that works out well, but really the only mounting point on the camera is on the bottom with the tripod socket. Eventually little cages will come out for this camera where you'll have a lot of different mounting points. So I did try out a vlogging setup with the camera. It works out pretty nicely. I'm gonna go over all of the different clips I took with that setup. Quick test of the audio with the microphone, see how it sounds. You can see audio levels on the screen, which is really nice. Quick test of the audio without the microphone attached. Still manual levels, see if it sounds any different. See the on the screen with the levels, which is really nice. Quick test of the audio. This is with auto levels and the standard microphone on the camera. See how it sounds. This is actually not showing the levels with auto on, so that's interesting. Let's touch around the camera. Let's see where that microphone is. Last test. This is with the microphone attached with auto levels. See how it sounds. In this case, you can touch the camera itself and shouldn't have any issues with the microphone on the camera, of course. So with auto levels again, it doesn't show it on the screen. So one of the biggest issues with vlogging on this camera, you could see in my video clips, is that focus was not consistent. Now, hopefully that'll be improved on with firmware, but we'll have to see. I can't judge that at the moment. In addition to all of that setup, it does have the time-lapse movie mode, which is on the M50 that I use. Nice to have. It takes frames and then it puts it into a movie file. It's super convenient. It works pretty well. You can do 4K and 1080p on that. All the different standard video modes, you do have 4K video, just nice to have. That's at 30 frames a second. Also, you've got the 25, 30, and 60 frames a second, depending on if you're in NTSC or PAL in the setup menu. Does also have 120 frames a second. That makes a video file at 30 frames a second. Once it stretches it out, there's no audio, no autofocus with that specific mode. It also does the vertical video. I didn't try that out, but just know that it is in there. As I mentioned, the lens does have image stabilization in it. The camera also has the digital image stabilization. You will get a little bit of crop in your video when you turn that on. So I think there are a lot of good features with video, but of course it doesn't have 24 frames a second. But with this specific camera, I don't think it's as big of an issue as some of the other ones. Let's go over picture quality and still photo situations. I took some sample photos. We're going to look at them on screen. I'll put all the information for each photo. I'll do 100% crop in a certain area and also just show you a compressed view of each picture. Didn't take too many photos, but we'll be in there with the different ISO settings and all that. As you can see, the 1-inch sensor is not magic, although I do think it's better than a lot of phones, a lot of small, tiny cameras. So it's kind of a nice balance between the best stuff, the ILCs, the large sensors, and the really tiny stuff. That was a look at the G7X Mark III. There are a lot of features in it. It is not a cheap camera, but build quality wise, it seems pretty solid. I think the Achilles heel of this camera is in autofocus. It uses contrast detect. These days you've got the RX100 series that a lot of the recent ones like the version 7 have phase detect on the sensor. If autofocus is your main thing, you want it as perfect as possible, as much as possible, especially in video situations. That is the key thing to consider. You probably want to look elsewhere, but of course try this camera out, see if it works for you, especially after firmware updates come out. Check it out, make sure that the autofocus works all right for you. And then it's a great option because it has so many features, especially with the app and focus stacking. It just has a lot to it. So I don't want to be too critical of the camera because it does a lot, but there are, again, some issues. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'm Scott from Photography Banzai. Again, thanks to Cameracraft in Rockford, Illinois for letting me try this out at the shop. Thanks again.